I can't believe that I am finally able to film outside in a sweatshirt in Texas. It's only taken until the middle of November to do so, but I am so excited because it's a beautiful day and I'm not going to sweat through all of my layers. And talking about believing, today I want to talk about limiting beliefs and how they might be holding you back in your job search, in your career, or heck, even in your life. Hi, I'm Laura, and I'm here to take your job search from stressful to successful. I'm sure you have limiting beliefs in your life. We all do. And these come from our family, our friends, our society, our culture. I have one that has stuck with me through the years, and that is I grew up believing that you never wore white after Labor Day. And I stuck to this. This is what I believed, this is what I was told. You just didn't do it. And then I did it. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. I just went about my day wearing white. And I think about that often when I think about a decision, like, should I do this? What will people think? And then I'm like, who really cares? Who made up these rules? And when it comes to your career, I want you to start thinking outside of this box that you were put in. I want you to start thinking for yourself. I want you to think, what would you do if nobody had an opinion? If there was no social regulations on what you should or shouldn't do? And there's a story that I heard on a podcast. It was about people making big shifts in their life. And there was this guy who was a lawyer, very buttoned up, very formal, and he became a clown. Yeah, he went from being a lawyer to being a clown. And I'm sure there was a lot of people who are like, what in the world are you doing? You can't do that. You went to school to be a lawyer. Why are you going to waste all of that education and money to become a clown? But he did it. He shrugged off those limiting beliefs. And what areas for you in your career do you struggle with limiting beliefs? Is that asking for a promotion or asking for a raise? Do you question whether or not you would get the promotion so you don't ask? Or do you feel as though you would be perceived a certain way if you advocated for yourself so you don't do it? Well, just shatter those. Just shatter those beliefs and try it. Go for it. Advocate for yourself. Or if you believe you deserve a raise, but then you're like, but nobody else in my department has gotten a raise when they've asked, so I can't do it. Well, that's a limiting belief. You aren't the people in your department. You are uniquely you. You have a unique set of skills, abilities, experience, and you have a different impact on your department, on the company. So ask and present your case and let go of the limiting belief that they don't give raises. And I have an example of this. I work for a company and I was at a fork in the road with my career. I had just received my master's degree in literature and I was working in HR. And I was offered an adjunct teaching position at a local college. And I really wanted to take it, but I wouldn't be able to continue working my HR job. And I still needed, well, the money because unfortunately adjunct professors aren't paid that much. So I went to my boss and I said, I'm going to have to give my notice because I had the limiting belief on myself that I couldn't work in my job because then it wasn't a full-time capacity. And they had never once offered anybody a part-time role. It's just not what they did. They didn't even exist in the payroll system of part-time. And so I went to my boss and I told him the situation and he said, okay, well, let me talk to the CEO and see what we can do to have you at least stay on part-time. And my mind was blown because I was like, wait a second. I didn't believe that that was even an option. I put the limiting belief on myself. Guess what? I ended up being the very first part-time employee at that company. And that's a perfect example of I went in already making the assumption that it couldn't be done. So I didn't even think to ask. It took my boss to even mention it because I had limited myself. So what areas are you limiting yourself in your career? Are you wanting to make a shift to a different career completely, but you feel as though you can't for whatever fill in the blank reason, what is your limiting belief? Because I want you to just think to yourself, what would happen if I didn't think in that way? What are the possibilities that lay in front of me? Is it lie in front of me? Lie? I don't know, but you know that are in front of you. So instead of looking at all the reasons you can't do something, start looking at all the possibilities if you choose to go for it. And if it's people who are putting those limiting beliefs on you, there's no reason that you should be listening to them. It's not their life, it's yours. If it's society that is putting these limiting beliefs on you, well, that's even worse, because who are you answering? Society is this like ethereal. Oh my gosh, me and my word choices today. Ethereal thing that doesn't really exist. It's like society. What does that mean? Who is that? Who cares what society thinks? And I want you to think to yourself, what do I want? What do I want to do? If that is to pivot, if that is to go for a promotion, whatever it is, squash those limiting beliefs and try it. Now, when it comes to your job search, I see limiting beliefs pop up a lot when it comes to networking. And I work a lot with my clients on this because this seems to be one of the biggest sticking points when it comes to a job search. Most of my clients know that networking is probably the best way to get a job, but it's also one of the most uncomfortable things. And the reason it's uncomfortable is because they've put limiting beliefs on themselves. We work together to bust them. And here's what I mean. Am I saying here's what I mean a lot too? Oh man, I don't know. This is what happens when I go totally unscripted. But when you assume whether people can or cannot help you, you've put a limiting belief on them. A lot of the times, the people that can help you in your job search aren't the ones that right off the bat you think will be able to. You might think, well, that person doesn't work for a company I want to work for, or that person doesn't work in an industry I want to be in. So how can they help me? Well, this is where you'd be surprised in where your assumptions can hold you back. I had a participant in my career relaunch blueprint workshop, and she got her current job because she started with her hairdresser. Yes, her hairdresser. Her hairdresser didn't work in the profession she wanted to work in. She didn't work the company she wanted to work in. But she knew somebody who worked in the industry, and that person knew somebody who worked at the company she wanted to work at. And the beauty of this is she didn't put a limiting belief on herself or on the person that she was speaking to. She didn't say, well, it's not worth telling her I'm looking for a job because she can't help me. And so I challenge you to figure out those sticking points in your job search where you're having a limiting belief and that's holding you back, whether that is reaching out to somebody thinking either that person can't help me or that person has too big of a title or has no time or whatever it is, and do it anyway. Or if you are looking to apply to positions that you aren't 100% a fit for, I want you to take away those limiting beliefs that you wouldn't be a good fit for, because you don't know. You don't always have to have a apples to apples, oranges to oranges match when you are looking for a new position. What you have done in your past, your unique blend of skills, experience, and abilities, there's a way that you can connect those to a lot of other possibilities that might not be so obvious. And this is where working with a coach is very helpful. And if you are at all interested in working together, I do have a link in the description below. But even if it's going to AI and saying, how can I connect the dots from where I am to where I want to be? That's a great way to start brainstorming. Also, limiting beliefs come into play when it's what should you or shouldn't you say in interviews, or what should you or shouldn't you say in follow-up emails. For some reason, people feel as though when they enter an interview that they've ceded all control, that the person who's doing the interviewing is the person who has all of the power. And that's not true. First of all, if you've been called in for an interview, there's already something that they see in you that they want to hire, and you wouldn't be sitting there if they didn't want you. So you do have some leverage in that situation. But more than that, I want you to really think about what it is you want to get out of an interview. And rather than think, I can't ask that, Instead, think, how do I get the information I need by asking a question in a certain way to get that information? And I hate when I see people, end an interview and then they tell me, oh, I had an interview, I think it went really well. And I'm like, great. So when should you be hearing back? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I didn't want to ask that. I didn't want to come off as too pushy. And I'm like, that's not pushy. That's a limiting belief that you're coming across as pushy. That's not the case. So letting go of that, or thinking that your follow-up email has to be structured in a certain way. You have to say, thank you for your time. I loved learning about the company. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, that's generic. And that's what other people say you should say. But what if you looked at it as your final opportunity to make an impression and you showed up one more time? You showed your impact, you showed a solution, whatever it is, and uniquely showed up as you. That's what I'm talking about. Getting rid of what people think you should do or what you have convinced yourself you should do. I don't know, for some reason in our world, we say that we celebrate those people who think differently. We celebrate those people who do things differently, who think outside the box. But then when we ourselves want to go outside that box, it feels uncomfortable. And a lot of us choose not to do it. What if you just did it? What if you did? What's the worst that could happen? And I really want you to think about that when you are having to make a decision. Like, should I try this? Should I not? Should I reach out to this person? Should I not? Should I go after this promotion? Should I not? What's the worst that could happen? That's what I want you to ask yourself. And if you are looking for a video on other ways that you can do things differently in your job search, make sure to check out my video here.